Jared Goff throws left, and he's intercepted for a third time of the day. Tremaine Edmonds jumps the route. His big contribution for the Bears, first pick as a Chicago Bear, their big-time free agent pickup of this offseason, comes up with a huge play, picking off Goff for the third time this game. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Bobby Valentine Sports Show. I'm your host, Frank Rampin, and let's get into another week of the NFL season. As you can see, back home, first time in the NFL Raiders studio back in Connecticut, and isn't it beautiful? All the Raiders stuff, all the new stuff, beautiful stuff, and just got my Thanksgiving haircut, so getting ready to go. Perfect day for a new podcast of Week 11 of the NFL season. Too bad the Raiders didn't follow through yesterday like everyone hoped. I know everyone was begging for them to win, and let me know what you think of the new setup. I'm excited about it. We got Howie, Tim Brown, Marcus, Josh Jacobs. We got the Coliseum, even though we're leaving there, and we got all the legends over here. We got Willie Howie, Ted Hendricks, Willie Brown, Cliff Branch, Jim Otto, Fred Blitnikoff, Ken Stabler, Daryl LaMonica, and the man Lester Hayes. All the boys everywhere. Pretty cool setup we got going on here. So excited to get into the Week 11 episode of the NFL podcast. So let's dive right into that. This was the last week of games before the Thanksgiving break. So this is the week of Thanksgiving. I'm recording this. It would be the Monday before Thanksgiving. One more game before Thursday. 3 games on the Thanksgiving holiday. Game on Black Friday this week, which will be pretty fun to watch. And in my opinion, there's a Black Friday NFL game for the first time in the history of the NFL, right? Why wouldn't you put it as the Raiders, the black team? I don't know, the silver and Black Friday. I feel like that makes sense. I've been watching the ads for the commercials all the time, and it's Jets, Dolphins, 2 bright colors, and they're editing the commercials so the teams are black and white. You wouldn't have had to edit the teams if it was just the Raiders or like the Raiders and the Steelers. Black Friday. I don't know. That makes more sense to me than the Dolphins and the Jets. I understand they were trying to go for a divisional powerhouse matchup with Aaron Rodgers hopefully playing, but that changed real quick this season, and now we got Zach Wilson playing on Black Friday, the first ever Black Friday game in the history of the NFL. So, nice. But that's besides the point. That's, like I said, this is the last week before Thanksgiving, NFL Week 11. Let's get into it. And our play of the day. Oh, boy. Let's go with this right now. So this came from the Dallas Cowboy-Carolina Panther game in Carolina. This was in the fourth quarter, I believe. Yeah, fourth quarter here with about 14 minutes to go. 24-10 lead for Dallas. Bryce Young's going to fake a handoff, drop back in the pocket, look right, and drop one over who gets picked off by Deron Bland. Diving interception, laid out in front of the route, jumped it. What a play by him. He pops up and runs it in for a touchdown. The 4th pick 6 of the season for Deron Bland, tying an NFL record for interceptions returned for a touchdown in a single season. And it's only week 11. Look at that play. Jumps the route, lays out to pick it off. Quick little spin, barrel roll, pops right back up to his feet, runs it in for a touchdown, untouched. Unbelievable play there for Deron Bland. 4th interception returned for a touchdown of the season, ties the NFL record. Pretty crazy stuff going on. So he's got a chance. He's got 6 more games to tie this record. Pretty crazy stuff there for Deron Bland. Unbelievable start this year. Unbelievable. He picked up that slack that Trayvon Diggs lost because Trayvon Diggs, as we know, he tore his ACL very early in the season. That was a huge blow for this Dallas defense, but they haven't missed a beat. They've been unbelievable all year long. Their defensive line has been unbelievable. Michael Parsons has been unbelievable, and Deron Bland has been unbelievable. As you can see, 4 pick 6s on the season, tying an NFL record. Unbelievable stuff from him. And now we'll jump into our Game of the Week segment. And so, like you can tell, I'm a Raiders fan. The Raiders have been in Oakland for my entire life. Here's the Coliseum in Oakland right here. They're in Vegas now. Still on the West Coast, or not the West Coast, but in the Western time zone, right? They're in the desert now in Vegas, not the West Coast, but you know what I'm saying. So forever, the Raiders typically play their games at 4 o'clock or later, right? They're playing a night game. They're not usually playing in the 1 o'clock window because they're in 4 o'clock, or they're on the West Coast time, so they're playing in a later, right? That's what I've been used to for my whole life. So usually the Raiders are playing in the 4 o'clock window. But they had to go to Miami on Sunday to play the Dolphins at 1 o'clock, which is kind of unusual for me. So this game of the week was the Lions and the Bears. That's what we're going with. And I was watching Red Zone at the same time I had the Raiders on, obviously, but I was more focused on the Raiders. And I kept seeing Jared Goff throwing picks. Like, I was like, what is going on? What's going on here? And the Bears were up by, I think it was 2 touchdowns here. And out of nowhere, Lions made it a game. Let's jump into our game of the week right now. I don't even know how this happened. Unbelievable game. So we'll pick it up here. First quarter, first drive of the game for the Chicago Bears. 9.5 minutes left in the first quarter. Justin Fields hands off to Deontay Foreman, who trots in for the 1-yard score, untouched, easily walking in there. First score of the game, 7-0 Chicago. He's been pretty good in the absence of, why am I forgetting? Khalil Herbert, who suffered an injury and went on IR about 3 to 4 weeks ago. He might be looking to come back soon, but Deontay Foreman has filled that void very, very, very nicely. So jumping ahead here, first Lions possession of the game. They're working their way into Chicago Bear territory on their 45-yard line. Jared Goff looks right, throws right, and is picked off by Tyreek Stevenson, his first career interception. The Chicago Bears defense is loving it. Pick forces a turnover on the first possession of the game here for Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. So Jared Goff had that crazy long stretch of pass attempts without throwing an interception that stretched back from last season all the way until I think it was like week 4 or 5 of this season. Very, very safe with the football, extremely, extremely cautious with it. Very efficient from Jared Goff, but ever since then, that was the third longest streak in the history of the NFL, actually, that streak of Jared Goff. But since then, the interception rate has been a little bit higher. The Bears were forced to punt, but this early INT is kind of a hint as how this game would go. But let's jump ahead now to another Detroit Lion possession inside Chicago territory. Again at the 45, Jared Goff surveying the field, looking over the middle and throws late, and it is intercepted. TJ Edwards, first pick as a Chicago Bear. Goff, second of the day. Not a very good decision there from Jared Goff. Made his mind to throw the ball very, very late. Intercepted across the middle of the field. Don't ever want to do that. But 2 plays later, a 2nd and 17 for the Justin Fields and the Bears. He's looking left, throws left, but the ball is caught and then fumbled, put right back on the ground. There's a mad scrum for it, and the Lions end up falling on it. So just 2 plays later, the Bears give the ball right back to the Lions after the second turnover of the day from Jared Goff, but did not matter. Lions get the ball right back. We're jumping ahead now to this Lions possession. They move all the way inside the red zone, all the way inside the 5-yard line, and Jared Goff is going to take the snap, toss one to Jahmyr Gibbs running to the left side, who walks into the corner of the end zone for the first score of the day for the Detroit Lions to tie the game up at 7-7 here in the first quarter. At the beginning of the second quarter. So, ensuing Bears possession, they're going to run into a 4th down and 1 here, going in at the Detroit Lion 31-yard line. Justin Fields is going to hand the ball off, and they're going to first surge forward. The offensive line is going to create a nice hole for Johnson there to pick up the first down here inside the 30-yard line of the Detroit Lions. So, this 4th down conversion keeps the drive alive, leads to a field goal by Cairo Santos. That will make the game 10-7 in favor of the Chicago Bears. Now, throwing ourselves way ahead here to the end of the second quarter, going into halftime, the Detroit Lions moving in inside the 10-yard line. Jared Goff zips one into the end zone. Amon-Ra St. Brown makes the catch. Touchdown Lions. That's going to make it 14-10 Detroit. So Detroit takes a lead here going into the second half, or at the end of the second half, and they are going to get the ball first to start the second half. So they're looking to double dip here. 1 score at the end of the first half, 1 score at the end, or the start of the first, 1 score at the end of the first half, and another score at the start of the second half. But the Lions are forced to punt. Chicago gets the ball back, drives it down into Detroit territory, and is able to kick a 53-yard field goal, nails it to make it 14-13. Second field goal of the day, good by Cairo Santos, 14-13 ball game. So Chicago hanging around here, making things tough on Detroit, and the ensuing kickoff, Josh Reynolds is going to make a nice return up across the 25-yard line, up across to the 30, almost the 35, but the ball pops out late. It is recovered by Chicago deep inside of Lion territory. 1st and 10 for Justin Fields and the Bears, down by 1 in Detroit territory. Couple plays later, on a 2nd and 20 play from the 39-yard line, Justin Fields steps up in the pocket and throws one deep over the middle of the field. DJ Moore's got it in the end zone. Touchdown Bears. That puts them on top 20-14. Bears take the lead here in the third quarter. Ensuing Detroit Lion possession. 3rd and 6 here for the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff throws left, and he's intercepted for a third time of the day. Tremaine Edmonds jumps the route. His big contribution for the Bears, first pick as a Chicago Bear, their big-time free agent pickup of this offseason, comes up with a huge play, picking off Goff for the third time this game. And Tremaine Edmonds was one of the players that I really, really wanted the Raiders to draft coming out of Virginia Tech in the draft. Were unable to get him. And this third interception of the day by Jared Goff leads to yet another Cairo Santos field goal to make it 23-14 in favor of Chicago. Jumping ahead now, ensuing our Lions punt again back to Chicago. Chicago's got the ball back now. 3rd and 14 play on their own 40-yard line. Field surveying the field. Interesting little wordplay there. Looks left, rolls out left. McGee's going to take off. He's got the first down and much more. About a 25, 30-yard run. He pop-up slides inside of Detroit Lion territory, and he's going to do a little dance there. Justin Fields looking like he's back to close to 100%. He said he wasn't at 100% in this game, but looking pretty close to it. Making plays with his feet, making plays for the Chicago Bear offense. And this is yet another field goal by Cairo Santos. So 26-14, Chicago. Here in the fourth quarter, late now. Very, very late. So now or never for the Lions, down by 12. Jared Goff at the 32-yard line of Detroit throws one deep to the right end zone, caught by Jameson Williams for the touchdown. So a huge play there from Detroit. Strike from Jared Goff to Jameson Williams for a 33-yard touchdown. 26-21 the ball game. Ensuing Chicago possession, Justin Fields on 3rd and 9 looking deep down the left sideline, and it's just over the outstretched arms of his receiver. That's going to force a punt. Big stand from this Detroit Lions defense. They're going to get the ball back with about 2.5 minutes to go in this ball game, down by 5 points. Jared Goff's got a chance. Even though he's thrown 3 picks in the game, he's got a chance to bring his team back and get a victory. So Detroit driving down inside of Chicago territory. David Montgomery makes a bunch of big plays on this drive, gets the handoff on 2nd and 1 and powers inside the 20-yard line, setting up the Lions inside the red zone. He was huge on this drive, like I said. He had another reception for a bunch of yards. Very, very clutch from David Montgomery late in this game when they needed him the most. So 3rd and 2 now, inside the 10-yard line for Detroit. They're going to hand it off to Jahmyr Gibbs, who's going to power forward for the first down and get tackled just short of the goal line, just down at the 1-yard line with about 30 seconds to go in the ballgame. So 1st and goal here for Detroit. There are 27 seconds left to go in the ballgame. They're going to hand one off to David Montgomery, the former Bear, takes it in from 1 yard out. He's in 27-26 ball game. Detroit takes a lead by 1 with 30 seconds left to go in the ball game. So 27-26, they're going to go for 2. Goff fakes the handoff, looks right, throws one back left, lobs it into the end zone for Brock Wright. He's got it. That was Sam Laporta. 2-point conversion good, 31-26 game. Unbelievable drive from Jared Goff. What a bounce back drive from him. 3 picks in the game. 3rd one right before that to set up another field goal for the Bears and Cairo Santos to make it 26-21. Make it 26-14. He leads 2 straight drives. The defense comes up big. He has another huge drive. Both running backs came up big there, Jahmyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery, to set them up inside the red zone. Montgomery takes it in for the touchdown. Goff completes it with a 2-point conversion to Sam Laporta. Field goal game, 29-26 with 30 seconds left in the ball game. First play for the Bears, and the next play, Aiden Hutchinson gets there and forces the sack. The ball dribbles away, and a Bears offensive lineman kicks it out of the back of the end zone. That's going to be a safety to seal the deal here, 31-26, as Aiden Hutchinson punched that ball deep into the stands. Unbelievable comeback win for the Detroit Lions, and an unbelievable defensive play by the young and coming Aiden Hutchinson to seal the deal for them. So what a game here, as I was more locked in on the Raiders than I was on this game, and I saw Goff had 3 picks. They were down by 12 with about 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. How did they win that game? There it is right there. Unbelievable drive for Jared Goff, ending in a touchdown pass to Jameson Williams to make it a 5-point game. Defense comes up huge, gets a stop, forces a 3 and out. Jared Goff and the running backs go right back down the field and score, and they get a 2-point conversion. And the defense yet again seals a deal with an Aiden Hutchinson strip sack leading to a safety. Great fourth quarter heroics in the last final 4 minutes from the Detroit Lions. And I mean, ever since they've had Dan Campbell and this new Detroit team, that is how this team works. And the Detroit Lions now sit at 8-2. 8-2 Detroit Lions. That's the best record the Detroit Lions have had since John F. Kennedy was the president in 1960. Unbelievable. 60 years in the making. Great stuff for the Detroit Lions. They're sitting on top of the NFC North right now and have the second seed in the NFC. Unbelievable stuff. So that's going to wrap up our Game of the Week segment, and we're going to jump into our NFL standings update. So, starting off as the AFC East, like we always do, we'll talk about the Miami Dolphins because we have to, and we had a very interesting game against them yesterday. Final score, the Miami Dolphins beat the Raiders 20-13 in an unbelievably sloppy game from both sides. The Raiders offense looked terrible, and honestly, the Dolphins offense, besides flashes of Tyreek Hill, didn't look so great. They committed 4 turnovers, very sloppy with the football. I believe Tua got picked off once. They fumbled 3 times, right? Very interesting game, and the Raiders offense just really, we were getting gifted opportunities in that game. Like, we got a turnover deep into Dolphin territory in the final minute of the first half after punting, and we just basically were playing for a field goal, let all the time run off the clock, kick that field goal to go down by 1, even though Miami's getting the ball out of halftime. And on that first play after halftime, we get bailed out again because Tua threw a pick. And what do we do? 3 and out. Ball right back to the minute Miami. Terrible from the Raiders offense. No points in the second half. Not very ideal, but the Miami Dolphins moved to 7-3, sit atop the AFC East. They were the 4th seed in the AFC, but I mean, honestly, I'm not sold on them. I'm not anymore. They can't really beat a good team, and I mean, I don't even know if the Raiders are a good team right now. They're kind of in the middle, iffy, and that is not a game that I would be too happy about if I was a Miami Dolphin fan. The Buffalo Bills, they beat the New York Jets. They moved to 6-5. They're 8th in the AFC. They're 1 spot out behind Pittsburgh at the moment. They looked a little bit better last night, but the Jets' offense is just stagnant, unbelievably stagnant. But if the Bills are going to do anything, they're going to have to do it right now, and they just keep sustaining injuries on defense, and that's not going to be a recipe for success for them. They're already very depleted in the linebacker and safety position, and it even got worse last night with Taylor Rapp getting hurt and taken away in an ambulance. So, bad stuff to see there, and prayers up to him, but we'll see what happens there. Like I just said, the New York Jets, they lost to Buffalo, and I mean, they fall to 4-6 now. So it's getting extremely bad. They just lost a divisional game to Buffalo. Not ideal for them to fall to 4-6. And I mean, all this talk about Aaron Rodgers making the craziest comeback of all time on this Achilles injury, it's not going to matter if they're out of the playoffs by the time he can come back, because why would they waste that? Why would he come in as a 38, 39-year-old quarterback who's 3 months off of an Achilles tear, right? Why would he come back and play 2 weeks in the final 2 weeks of the season for a New York Jets team who's got no chance to make the playoffs? There's no point in doing that, so he wouldn't do that. And if the Jets can't figure it out right now, we're not going to see Aaron Rodgers at all this year, which would just be insane. The New England Patriots were on a bye. They're 2-8, and honestly, thank God. Don't really want to talk about them right now, but crazy thing that I heard Scott Hansen say on Sunday during Red Zone. During Sunday's game, Trevor Lawrence got his 10th passing touchdown of the year. Just 10 in Week 11. Going into this week, he had 9, and Mac Jones had 10. All the Mac Jones slander this year, how terrible he's been, bad decisions he's made. I'm not a fan of him, but Trevor Lawrence doesn't have as many touchdown passes as him. That's a problem. That's definitely a problem. We'll go over to the NFC East now. The Philadelphia Eagles still sitting at 8-1. They have not played yet. They're coming off their bye, and they play in a Super Bowl rematch on Monday Night Football tonight against the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll definitely check in after that one. It's going to be a Taylor Swift frenzy, and I don't know how much I feel about that. They hold the best record in the NFL still at 8-1, and they're obviously the 1 seed in the NFC. So we'll see if anything changes tonight in a huge, highly anticipated matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City, which is unfortunate. The Cowboys sitting in second right behind them at 7-3. They just beat Carolina. They're the 5 seed in the NFC. They moved up a little bit after this week and a couple losses from somebody else. And I showed you that Deron Bland pick 6, his 4th pick 6 of the season to tie an NFL record. He has been unbelievable. That was our play of the day. The Washington Commanders, they fall to the New York Giants. They lost both of their games this year to the New York Giants. They fall to 4-7. And there was a bunch of crazy plays in that game. The Giants forced 6 turnovers in the game. Sam Howell and the offense, they could not keep control of that ball at all. There was a bunch of fumbles, a bunch of picks. It was wild. There was a fight in that game, a couple of ejections. Wild NFC East battle between two teams that have not been very good this year. The New York Giants, to round out that division, they are 3-8, but they just beat Washington. They swept Washington on the season, so 2 of their 3 victories have come against the Washington Commanders. And like I said, the Giants forced 6 turnovers in this game. 6. The last one being a pick 6 to seal it by Isaiah Simmons. Pretty crazy stuff by the Giants, but 6 turnovers. Wild. The AFC North, just what just happened in this division? It was the best division in football by far. Like every team was 2 games ahead of 500 just 2 short weeks ago. And now what is going on? The Ravens are still sitting on top. They're 8-3. They beat Cincinnati on Thursday Night Football. They're the 2 seed in the AFC right now, right? But that Thursday Night Football game against Cincinnati was an absolute shit show. The Ravens, they ended up winning. Lamar Jackson got banged up. Joe Burrow threw a touchdown pass to Joe Mixon, but he grabbed his arm immediately, and you saw him warming up on the sidelines. He couldn't even pick up a football. Every time he went to go throw, it was just. And we find out the next day he's got to get season-ending surgery on a ligament in his wrist. His season will be over. That's done. And Deshaun Watson, after leading our Game of the Week drive last week and beating the Baltimore Ravens, he finds out he's got a shoulder problem. He's going to need surgery. He's out for the year. So 2 of the 4 quarterbacks in this division, who was arguably the best division in football, every team was above 500 by 2 games 2 weeks ago. 2 of those 4 quarterbacks are gone. Deshaun Watson out for the year. Joe Burrow out for the year. So are the Browns and the Bengals done for the year? I don't know. We'll see. The Ravens beat Cincinnati, like I said, but the Browns go into Pittsburgh and they beat the Steelers. 7-3 are now the Cleveland Browns. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the UCLA product, his first career win as a starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. They're the 5 seed in the AFC right now. The 5 seed, the Cleveland Browns. So they move ahead of Pittsburgh. As I said, the Pittsburgh Steelers lose. They move to 6-4. So the Browns are a game ahead of them at 7-3. They lost to Cleveland, but the Steelers still hold the 7th seed in AFC. 1 spot ahead of Buffalo, keeping themselves in the playoff hunt through week 11. And the Bengals, like I just said, they lost Joe Burrow, lost to the Ravens on Thursday Night Football, and I kind of think they're done, right? So, like I said, there's 2 teams here. 2 out of the 4 quarterbacks in this division are done for the year. The Cleveland Browns pull off a shocker and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though the Pittsburgh Steelers are not that great of a team. Their defense has been very good, carrying them through this season. But the Browns, with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, put themselves in position to, honestly, fight for this division still. Crazy stuff. So we'll move to the NFC North now. We talked about the Detroit Lions a little bit. They were our game of the week. They beat the Chicago Bears in a crazy comeback for our game of the week. They moved to 8-2, and like I said, best Detroit Lions record in any season since John F. Kennedy was the president of the United States. Unbelievable stuff. The Minnesota Vikings played on Sunday Night Football last night against the Denver Broncos in Denver. They took a hard-fought defeat. I believe the final score was 20-17. Cortland Sutton caught a late touchdown pass from Russell Wilson with about a minute left in the ballgame to put them up. Josh Dobbs led them down into Denver territory, eventually throwing a pick to seal the game. But even with the loss and the Vikings falling to 6-5, they still hold the 7th seed in the NFC, which is pretty crazy after Justin Jefferson gets hurt, put on the IR. He still isn't back, didn't play this past week. Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles. He's out for the year. Crazy stuff that this Josh Dobbs-led Minnesota Vikings team is still sitting around there hanging for a division or for a wild card berth. The Green Bay Packers, they went to 4-6 this week because they beat the Los Angeles Chargers. Very sloppy game from the Chargers yet again. Romeo Doubs caught a touchdown from Jordan Love to put them up with about 2.5 minutes left to go in the game. There was a drop touchdown pass from Keenan Allen. You never see that very often. He's as sure-handed as they come. Dropped a big touchdown pass late in the game. And Quentin Johnson had a big drop late in the game to kind of seal a Green Bay victory. So the Packers moved to 4-6, beating LA Chargers. The Chicago Bears, like I said, they were our game of the week. On the wrong side of it, they lost to Detroit, blew the game, fall to 3-8, and they might have the first 2 picks in the draft because they have Carolina's pick, who's probably going to be the first pick in the draft, and their own pick, which might be number 2. I don't know if that's ever happened before. And the crazy thing is, they might not even draft a quarterback. So, if they think Justin Fields is their guy, there's a chance that the Chicago Bears have pick 1 and 2 in this year's draft, and they don't want any quarterbacks. So they could trade picks. They could take, Marvin Harrison Jr. They could do whatever they want. Interesting scenario for them going into this year's draft if they secure the top 2 picks. The AFC South will move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, move on to 7-3. They beat the hell out of Tennessee. This was definitely the best game of the season for Trevor Lawrence, and obviously it was because I didn't start him in fantasy. He's been my fantasy quarterback all year, and I decided, I'm going to go Josh Dobbs this week because he's been great. Nope. Trevor Lawrence has 33 points, runs for 2 touchdowns, 4 total touchdowns on the day, 33 fantasy points. Josh Dobbs, 2 picks, 14 fantasy points. So, good start by me. Jacksonville Jaguars holding on to that division right now in the AFC South. They're the 3 seed in the AFC. Right behind them and on their heels, though, the Houston Texans. They won again, beating the Arizona Cardinals. They moved to 6-4. This was a pretty interesting game. C.J. Stroud looked a little bit worse than he had been for the past, 10 weeks of the season, as he's an MVP candidate so far. He threw 3 picks in this game, which I think was more than he had the entire season. I think he had 2 going into this week, and he threw 3 this week. A couple bad throws over the middle, picked off by linebackers, not getting enough little layer on those throws, getting them over the first level into the second level. But Houston still nipping on the heels of the Jacksonville Jaguars because they're able to do just enough. Their defense is solid. I mean, C.J. Stroud can do just enough, even if he's not playing his greatest football. Pretty impressive to say, but as a rookie, looks like he's that guy. They're 6-4, sitting in the playoff hunt right now. I think they're the 6th seed in the AFC. The Colts had a bye. They're 5-5. They played in Germany last week, so they got a bye. The Tennessee Titans, they fall to 3-7, and they do not look very good at all. Will Levis had a great start to a career. 3rd player in the history of the NFL to have 4 touchdown passes in his first career start. And then right after that, struggling. Derrick Henry can't get anything going because the pass game doesn't have much. The only touchdown they scored of this game was a reverse that ended up getting back to Will Levis, and he chucked one deep down the field to DeAndre Hopkins. So, I mean, all they had was trickery. Couldn't really get anything else going. They're sitting at 3-7. Their season is on the brink of being over very, very soon. The NFC South now, the New Orleans Saints, they're holding the top of this division right now at 5-5 with a bye this week. They did not play. Hopefully that was good enough for Derek Carr to get back, and maybe he's healthy for next week, or it's going to be the Jameis Winston show, which we saw a lot of last week against Minnesota, and you know how that works. It's just a flip of a coin to what's going to happen. But they're 5-5 leading the NFC South. I said it earlier in this year, this is probably going to be the worst division in football, this or the AFC South. But Jacksonville looks way better than New Orleans. So they're in first place, 5-5 though. Atlanta, they also run a bye this week. They're 4-6, sitting in second place. They were in third place going into this week, but a Buccaneers loss to the 49ers put them at 4-6, and the Falcons beat the Buccaneers head-to-head. So Falcons move ahead of them. And to wrap up this NFC South division, the Carolina Panthers lost again, moved to 1-9. This is not ideal. And like I said, they don't even have their first pick. They have their pick. The first pick in the draft as of right now would be the Carolina Panthers, but it would be the Bears because they traded it for DJ Moore. So unfortunate. Now moving to the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're 7-2, the 1 seed in the AFC. They're playing Monday Night Football against the Eagles in a Super Bowl rematch. Touched on that. We'll get back to you after that game is over tonight. I'll be back with that, back in the studio. I just love this new studio, to be honest. Like, kidding me? Here's a shocker. After their win over the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday Night Football against the Vikings, the Denver Broncos move to 5-5 and sit in second place in the AFC West, right behind the Kansas City Chiefs. That one game, because both the Raiders and the Chargers lose, jumps them ahead of both of them. So the Denver sitting in second place in the AFC West now, right behind Kansas City, ahead of the Raiders and the Chargers. The Raiders fell to 5-6 as they lose to the Miami Dolphins. Their offense is very, very brutal. It's just unbelievably bad. There was a ton of terrible play calls in this game. We're just running the ball with Josh Jacobs, but maybe that tells me that we don't trust Aiden O'Connell. And, I mean, it's very hard to read this guy. He's only played in 4 career games. He's got very good arm talent. He can make throws. He doesn't have the best pocket presence or scramble ability, which I feel like is very important in this day and age in the NFL. Maybe they don't trust him so much. So I'm not sure if Aiden O'Connell's the guy. It might be too early to say. I want to see what happens for the rest of the season because we do play some good teams. We got to play Kansas City twice. We got to play the Chargers once. We got to play Denver again. We got the Colts, and I'm not sure the rest. But I mean, I'm curious to see how he does throughout the rest of the season. And if not, I think we're gonna have to draft a quarterback. And for 2 years now, I've been saying this. I think the Raiders should get Michael Penix Jr. I think he is the best pure pocket passer in this year's NFL draft, in this year's college football playoff, or in this year's college football overall. Anyone in college football, I think he's the most pure passer from the pocket, and he's very athletic too. So I want Michael Penix from the Raiders, and I've been saying it for 2 years now. So we'll see what happens. But I also hope that the Raiders keep Antonio Pierce. I think the way that what he brings to the team, what he brings to the players, being a players manager or players coach, I'm talking still, sometimes I throw my baseball terms into here, but being a players coach, I think is very important for a team like the Raiders to get back to their Raider way. So I hope that we keep Antonio Pierce. But I guess only time will tell, especially these next 5 weeks of the season, going into the last, I believe, 5 weeks of the season. Yeah, we're 5 and 6. Yeah, so 5 weeks of the season. All right. The Los Angeles Chargers lost to Green Bay. They fall to 4-6. They're sitting on the last place in the AFC West. Very surprising. Honestly, like their team is way too good to be at the bottom of this at 4-6. Crazy stuff for them, but they just pulled the same stuff every week. Like I said, they couldn't finish the game against Green Bay, gave up a touchdown late to go down, and were unable to come back. And to wrap it up, we got the NFC West. The San Francisco 49ers, they beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to make their record 7-3. They are the 3 seed in the NFC, and they look very good yesterday. Their defense looks unbelievable. That D-line is scary. The Seattle Seahawks, they fall to 6-4 in a heartbreaking loss to the Los Angeles Rams, divisional game. Geno Smith got banged up in this game. He was forced to leave, so Drew Lock played quarterback for a good portion of the second half. But with the game in hand, 1-point ball game, 17-16, Geno Smith came back in the game to lead the Seahawks to try to win the game with about a minute and a half left in the fourth quarter. He leads a great drive, puts the Seahawks all the way into Ram territory, sets up the game-winning field goal as time expires, and it is missed. So a heartbreaker for Geno Smith and the Seahawks as he toughed one out, injured in the ballgame. It already says that he's doubtful for next week, but he willed himself to come in for that last drive of the game, set up the Seahawks in field goal range, but sadly the field goal was missed. So the Rams were able to hang on 17-16, but the Seahawks are still the 6th seed in the NFC as of right now. And like I just said, the LA Rams, they improved to 4-6, as they beat Seattle. Jason Myers missed a last-second field goal to give them the victory. And to wrap it up, the Arizona Cardinals, they fall to 2-9 after they lose to the Houston Texans. Kyler Murray, second game back, he threw a couple nice long balls in this game, also threw a couple picks. He needs to get back to his normal self, and they fall to 2-9. They're kind of done here. And that's going to wrap up the NFC West. That's going to wrap up our divisional races. It's going to wrap up Week 11 right now, so we'll get back in after the Monday Night Football game. Super Bowl rematch. Highly anticipated matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Taylor Swift Bowl, she's going to be there apparently. DeAndre Swift's going to be there, so Swift's all over the place. We'll be back after that one, and we'll see you later tonight. Peace out. Alrighty, so Monday Night Football wrapped up Week 11 in the books. Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl rematch. Pretty unbelievable game. Lived up to the hype. More of a defensive battle maybe than people would have thought. The line was crazy. The over-under was pretty high. Both quarterbacks' line for completions was over 20. That did not happen. Patrick Mahomes didn't throw for that many yards in this game. The Philadelphia Eagles ended up winning 21-17. Ending the streak of, I think the Chiefs had won 11 straight games off of the bye. Unbelievable. Andy Reid's unbelievable after the bye, so very rare loss for him after a bye week. And the Chiefs previously before this game were 12-0 when scoring first in the ball game. So they scored first today. They got the loss, so 12-1 now. 12-0 in their last games. 12 games scoring first. Unbelievable stuff, but that streak ends in Kansas City on Monday night. First time I believe that Jason Kelsey's ever beaten the Chiefs and his brother Travis, so pretty good stuff for them, but the Chiefs offense did not look great. Neither did the Eagles offense, but the story of the game up until the end was the Chiefs defense, honestly. The defensive line for the Chiefs was dominant. Later on in the game, the Chiefs were able to go up. They went up 17-7 at halftime. The start of the second half was kind of punt, and then the Eagles score, making it 17-14. And then kind of a little bit more stagnant. The Chiefs were going in. Travis Kelce fumbled inside the 10-yard line, but that didn't lead to anything. The Eagles had to punt the ball right back. But eventually, Eagles drive down, long pass down the right sideline to Devontae Smith. Stop short at the 1-yard line, do a tush push to score. Eagles go up 21-17. That ends up being the final score, but the Chiefs got a chance with about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left in the game. On their own about 10-yard line, Travis Kelce had a big drop on a third down, 4th down and 2. He went right back to him. He made the play. Later in the drive, Marquez Valdez-Scantling wide open, deep post down the middle at the goal line. Patrick Mahomes drops the ball in the bucket beautifully, and he just can't make the play. 5 drops on the day for Kansas City Chiefs wide receivers. 3 of them came on the final drive of the game, killed them in the end, and the Eagles were able to hold out with a 21-17 victory. And even on the last play of the game, it was a 4th and 25 because they called Mahomes for an intentional grounding on a 3rd and 10, or a 3rd and 10, 15-yard penalty plus a loss down. So 4th and 25, Mahomes threw another laser that hit his receiver in the head. I mean, given that one was a tough play, the receiver, the corner, the defender was all over his back. But, I mean, perfect throw right where it had to be, giving your receiver a shot, didn't make the play. 5 drops on the day for Kansas City Chiefs receivers, 3 on that final drive, and 26 total drops on the entire season, most in the NFL. So Patrick Mahomes does a lot of things this year, not getting a lot of help from those receivers. They take a loss. I believe it was their 3rd loss of the season, moving them to 7-3 now. The Eagles move to 9-1 and look very, very good, poised to make another deep, deep playoff run. Best team in football right now, 9-1. Obviously, best team in the NFC. Chiefs fall to 7-3, but I believe that still holds them as the best record in the AFC. So Monday Night Football, that's a wrap. Super Bowl rematch, that's a wrap. And Week 11 over with in the books. We'll see you next week for Week 12. Make sure you follow the Bobby Valentine Sports Show on, one more thing. Little wardrobe change here. Had the white Raiders on. Had to put the UConn Athletics on because UConn basketball, first big win of the season today against number 19 Texas. Pretty handed win. Texas hung around late, 10-point ball game, but I believe the UConn Huskies pulled it out by about 12 points. Big win for the boys, but had to throw that in there. Let's go. But make sure you follow the Bobby Valentine Sports Show on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that good stuff. And if you need anything to know about BVSA, hit up the bv.com or at bvacademy.com. Tell you everything you need to know about Bobby Valentine Sports Academy, lessons, parties, anything you need. All right, that's it for me. Week 11 NFL podcast. Peace out.